I have a strong feeling that when I'm diving, when I'm in this realm of sensations, and it's a communication. It's a communication field. It's a kind of it's an exchange, and I always have a feeling that I'm communicating in some ways with different type of intelligence, or with intelligence itself, or consciousness itself, that is particular to something that is within my body or beyond my body, and I don't know even where it is. But there is a communication stream going from one to another, and there is a kind of engaged conversation with different type of intelligence. Or it's hard to describe it because it's so much connected to sensations, but yet there is awareness, and there is something, a quality to the sensation that feels it's talking. It is speaking something, even though I don't have sometimes the understanding, the rational. My brain doesn't have the capacity to even to put words or to put the meaning even for it. But I know that something is happening, and I'm really trying to um, open up my brain, or my to kind of engage with that further. So some that so something is happening on the conscious level.
Right, right. So there's a book that speaks somewhat very, very succinctly to this. It's by a man named David Presti, Presti. It's called Mind Beyond Brain.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a scientist, he's a neuroscientist, and he's saying science understands, has mapped the brain neurologically for its what the brain does, but the mind is something else again.
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying science gets very sort of defensive or doesn't like to notice the experiences that people have that defy, they go beyond the function of the brain.
Yeah.
And he's calling that the mind. And he says, it's these experiences that come to people that are past life, vivid experiences, or little children talking about past lives, or near-death experiences, or precognitions, or a whole host of things that often are incredibly pivotal to people in terms of turns in their life, and essential belief systems that come from an experience.
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying, when science is able to take curiosity into this realm and wonder, what is this organ of awareness that that crosses time zones and spatial zones, and that we seem to share often.
Mm-hmm.
And it is somehow, it's related to this sense of the potency of the field that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
And I think that what you're saying about the opening of that, let's bring it back to continuum. So what is it about a continuum practice that enhances your ability to go further into, not just wait around for the next paranormal experience to bump into you? What are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly the I would somehow I feel that the conversation with the body is a primary conversation, and that the conversation that will reach out to the bigger, maybe the bigger field. But there is first this communication that is happening through the sensation of the body, through the sound, through the space that are opening, through what the constant swaying of information between what I'm aware of and my sensory motor experience, like how am I moving, and what am I perceiving somehow. So for me, that's
Yeah.
actually where it and it's and that's where I find it interesting as a gate almost to enter deeper layers, let's say, of experience that can be meaningful or not. But the in other words, what I feel that Continuum gives us is an access to a larger communication field that we can actually engage with and comprehend or integrate, if that's a better word, to even though the meaning.
or yeah, I would say it gives us a receptivity
Mhm.
to allow some of these trans-rational things to come in and to respect them to a certain extent. You know, the imagery, the dreamlike state. I think we have to include the unconscious in here as well.
Mhm.
That there is we are practicing something that is non-linear.
Yeah.
And in a way non-rational.
Yeah.
You know, in that we are not directing from a neocortical sense of rationality. And so as we are developing this, I completely agree with you. What's essential, the first order, is sensation. And, you know, when I think about where I have received my marching orders in my life,
Mhm.
it has come from the hair standing up on my arm when I hear about a place that I know nothing about,
Right.
or, you know,
Mhm.
sensations that have come over me in relationship to somebody else or in relationship to a place I'm visiting. And I'm sure this goes on at the most mundane level
Mhm.
of, I'm tired now, I think I'll go to bed. But um, the practice of what's of interest to you at a physiological level, and do you trust it?
Mhm.
And so I think that goes into concert with this broader awareness, which is not physiological,
Yeah.
of the kind of the dream images and the I feel like a cloud right now. I don't feel like a human body. I feel like a cloud. That's interesting. So this kind of coming and going between the body and these other states that seem to redefine the possibility of what we actually are.
Yeah. And maybe there is another piece with along with that, which is the nervous system and the becoming of the nervous system somehow, and how in the same time it's the inhibitor for
Yeah,
experience, and yet it's the only
yeah,
vehicle we have for having an experience. So it's a kind of a dance with how nervous system is a system that is open and dynamic and balanced and self-regulated, and yet evolving. And I have the feeling that's something that, well, it seems we have a lot to deal with that, especially in situation like we are right now. The one of the first things that kind of seems to shut down is the nervous system in a way to cope with. We have mechanism to survive, but um, so I don't know if there is something you'd like to speak about the this piece of the nervous system being somehow also. sometimes I have the image that when we are in this fluid realm, the nervous system is the electric. We have this fluidity and this and the nervous system is this electric impulses that kind of moves across the network and somehow create a reality that we can experience.
Yeah. Well, I'm more than having an answer. I'm curious about your vision of what an evolved human being at the nervous system level would be. What do you have a sense of that?
Yeah, actually, I have a sense. So just about my own experience with my own nervous system and its history, where I guess because my system is very empathetic. I don't know what would be the
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so
Empathetic. Yeah.
empathetic. So I'm feeling a lot of the outside and what's around me, and I always, since I was born, since I was a child, I always felt a lot of stress. But I don't know. I don't think it was my stress. I think it was just a stress in my family around my mother, and so it's that it became somehow. I had a really wired nervous system for and still it's there. But all this work has changed that. So I'm able to actually receive having these triggers, but yet I can maintain balance because there is a different wiring now that I can access.
Yeah.
So my guess is that the next level is that we can actually integrate more information without dissociating, without getting into all these flight, fight, freeze mechanism that or the shutdown mechanism, that we can actually be able that we can stay with this physical experience or physiological experience that is very hormonal and chemical, and there is so many sensation when there is some kind of a huge stimulation, whatever it is, if it's a news, if it's a earthquake or something, so that we can actually maintain a sense of regulation and being able to make good decision.
Mm.
So
Yeah. Huh. Okay. Yeah. I feel like I have sort of two different thoughts going simultaneously with what you said. Well, three actually. First one is, I think that if you did statistically how many people in Continuum came in hugely empathetic in that way with the confusion of it, and I think many of us, you would find a higher ratio than usual with birth trauma.
right.
So I think there are many of us that had birth trauma, which kind of shattered our vehicle of self-regulation at the get-go.
Right.
And because of that, it made life very stressful, and it made us recognize continuum via our sensitivities as well as our needs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we kind of collected that way. And it's a funny thing to think that birth trauma might turn out to have set us up for enormous resources beyond just being a really adapted cultural participant.
Right.
So I think there's something in that initiated something here. To go further into evolution, I sort of have the feeling that we have to turn around and go backwards first. Mm-hmm. That we have to integrate our animal body into our humanness more.
Right.
So I think the healing, of coming out of huge distress and coming out of the confusion of, is this my feeling or is this the field around me? We have to develop a much stronger sense of a comfortable inside animal body. So we have to be more like a dog, to be able to get really excited and then shake it off and go straight to sleep. And we've lost a lot of those capabilities. And we're overly complex up in the thought department. We're just running around in circles in our own heads. And this isn't helping anything.
Yeah.
So how do we quiet that? I think is a kind of how do we really actually integrate the neocortex, the limbic, and the brainstem like we never have before? Yeah. So I think of it partly in that direction, and then I feel into what you're saying about the evolution, and I think our belief structures our belief structures put limitations in the way to feel like, for starters, that this field stuff we're talking about is normal and there all the time. How would that change us? And then beyond that, I think there's places beyond that, like, some people are really into interplanetary communications going on, and if you don't believe that, you can't feel it. You're going to eliminate it if you have anything that comes close to that, and actually feel threatened by it.
Right.
So I was just hearing a conversation last night. Rupert Sheldrake, who came with a biomorphic field. Am I saying that right? He was one of the first ones to write about this, and he was stabbed during a lecture. Somebody walked into the lecture hall and stabbed him with a knife. And we were just talking about that. It's like, what would make somebody want to do that? And, the answer that was coming up in our conversation was that it circles back to the beginning of our conversation. It's like to not know, to feel like we are out of control of this medium of the universe.
Right.
And we don't understand. Yeah. And we don't know what's going on, is just, it can put your physiology into stress. Yeah. For some people, And yet, if you have a belief system that encompasses something, it becomes very normal very quickly. It's like, oh, okay. That's how it goes. Yeah. So, yeah. It's funny, I'm sort of hitting the wall as far as I can feel into something. Yeah.
No, it's great. It's great. It's great because I think it's an important topic. And just maybe one last thing about, and you just mentioned it about, I have also a strong feeling that when we, and that's, many, all the spiritual teachings they all come to a state of no mind or one mind, or something that doesn't have this nervous system that reflect talks and brings all kind of speculation, and so that's another aspect of how this nervous system can evolve, having just a kind of an open system with no thinking process that disturbs the cognitive process.
Can you? I personally don't think I'll get there this lifetime to live totally in that state. Do you feel like it is possible for people to arrive and live in that state constantly?
I don't know. I think it's. I mean, it's not. It's not even so much of a goal, or like a spiritual achievement, like it is presented. But I have the feeling that when we use that in Continuum, sometimes we're there. Sometimes we are in this.
Oh, definitely.
The
Yeah.
space is so quiet and so big and so of crystalline kind of quality. It has so much space,
Yeah.
and I just have the feeling that there is almost like I think sound has a lot to do with it in some ways. I think it does affect our brainwave in ways that it really quiets that part of the mind, and
Right.
and just also when we get the experience itself, I think that's how we learn. Like like you know the experience, so you can get there again, and at some point maybe it
Right.
becomes like walking, like bicycling, like you just know how to do it.
Right. I agree with you with all of that. And I think that, I'd call up Emily's term broadband virtuoso. So
Yeah,
the idea that you know better and better how to find that state and know that it's there if you will take the steps to go there.
yeah,
And I guess that's where I am in my belief system is yes, yes, and more of that. And I guess I believe that while I'm in this body with a dualistic brain and in this plane of contrast all the time, that I'm sort of strung out on the cross of human existence. I'm a human with
yeah,
the pushes and the pulls and the distractions and the complexities of it, because that's where I'm. This is the main plane I live in.
so,
But I do, when we go to the expansion of belief system, I have personally, and I have longed for what the indigenous people had more of, which was this absolute certainty that ancestors were part of life
mhm,
and part of existence, and that the spirit world was close at hand, and that there was not an iron curtain between the two planes. And this is for me when I think, more than communication with star beings from some other planet. It's like, I don't know. I have no belief system one way or the other.
mhm,
With the spirit world, I have much more of an experience of the truth of that. And the image of ease, which I think certain masters, spiritual masters, have demonstrated that the stepping off point between this plane and the next is not that big a deal.
right.
And there's a kind of an ease within them around that. And I do more aspire in this lifetime to keep feeling into that as something that feels more and more real to me the older I get.
Right.
And yet, who knows? You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 I agree with you. Yes. Yes. It's fantastic to be able to have a conversation like that, and yet be in a curious state and with no affirmation of what's there,
Yeah.
because we just experience it, and we see what we experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yay.
Whoa. So fun talking to you. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Gael.
Yeah.
Is there, before we finish, I know you're going to do a mystery school in the summer, and do you want to say a couple of words about that? Because maybe people will want to, will see this video, and they will, they will like to join you, or also talk about the Wellspring program you do with Robert. Um, if you just want to introduce that, so people know that they are different offers you
Sure.
make.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so for starters here, are we meeting in August? We don't know, along with everybody else. And then I was even thinking last night, and if we cannot meet, would we still hold it virtually? I would be quite disappointed not to sit with others, because what we are wanting to do with this mystery school, we have a good contingent of senior teachers who sat through with Emily through different mystery schools over a couple of decades, and it feels extremely important to me that we collectively find what was authentic to our own experience about what we were doing. Every mystery school was a bit different, and there were certain themes that came back every single time.
Right.
So we want to refresh these themes and really take the teachings collectively from each other about that. So this is going to be the first part of this as we gather. And we have new teachers coming in, which was also in Emily's idea. This was the initiation of new teachers into the school, was to join mystery school. So we have both happening, and it's more expensive. I talked with Emily as she was dying. I asked her about mystery school. She says you have to have at least 6 days, preferably 7 or 8. And it's just, this is what we're doing. It's feels quite different than other workshops. It has a kind of a discipline in it that is not guided and not as luxurious as silent retreats, where you kind of are on your own system, your own desires moment by moment. It just feels like I'm hoping that we kind of revitalize the feeding of the sacred well, which is, really this aspect of the source that feeds all Continuum, but this is like really going to the source and honoring the source beyond health and well-being and learning new techniques. It's really something that is for something different than that. So that's mystery school, and we would love people to come and join us, and we hope we get to do it.
Yeah.
And Wellsprings is in the offing for 2021, we think. Robert and I, we're in social isolation right now. We were going to meet, but it's really strange to plan, and so don't know. But yeah, and it keeps morphing a little bit as times change. So. But it was really, the idea was, and of course, it's impossible to wrap up everything, every technique, every modality, everything that's in Continuum, and it keeps changing all the time. But the idea behind it is, rather than go workshop to workshop that always has a different theme and a different style and a different everything, and you're kind of getting different tastes on the Continuum. So it's like a place to come where it's like, well, what are the principles and what are the, and so it's more, and I think the biggest powerhouse of Wellsprings, I feel so lucky that I got dragged unbeknownst to myself into it, is 18 days in, where you are diving every single day. And so you come out different just for that. And the way that people learn to really open up the door, not necessarily to be Continuum teachers, but how would you meet somebody else in their process to coach them into a Continuum practice. So that's part of Wellsprings. And I guess I'll put in a little plug in this day and age that I have not been I have worked face to face with people more, and it hasn't been my choice to work virtually so much with people, but I mean, hey, okay, I will. If people want some kind of private from this modality, I've done it. It is possible.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for this for this explanation for the people who are watching this right now.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
Gael, thank you so much. We're gonna end this conversation here, and maybe we continue further another time.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay. Lots of love.